Good Monday morning. We dig back in this morning. Remember last week I told you the significance of the number 7. John has just been told to write everything he hears down, give these 7 letters to the 7 churches, and that 7 means the number of perfection and completion in the Bible. Anytime, think about it. In 7 days, God created the heavens and the earth. On the 7th day he rested, he was done. There will be 7 years of tribulation. Why? Because after 7, he's done. And so you see this number 7 over and over and over, especially in this book of Revelation. But here, we're going to start with verse 12. So he's just been told and given the name of all the 7 churches in Asia that he's to send these letters to. Then it said, I turned to see the voice that was speaking to me. And on turning, I saw 7 golden lampstands. And in the midst of the lampstands, one like the Son of Man. So let's stop there. So he turns to see who's actually speaking to him. And he sees that it's one like the Son of Man. Now, A.W. Seiss, in his book Apocalypse, he says this about the word like, which I think is really good for us to know as we move forward in the book of Revelation. He said the word like sets us upon the scent of something higher than humanity or the human condition, yet having everything in common with us. So that we know that Jesus was both God and man. He had everything in common with us, but he was much higher than humanity. So it's very clear that this is Jesus. That when John looks to see who's speaking to him, he finds out it's Jesus. And where does he see Jesus, which is so beautiful? He sees him standing in the midst of these golden lampstands. How many of them are there? There are 7. Why? It's a number of completion. What do these represent? It's going to tell us later on in this chapter, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you now. I'm just going to reveal the ending. The 7 golden lampstands represent 7 churches. They represent the church. The lampstands do. So he's telling them, I am in the middle of my church. Isn't that beautiful? That's where Jesus is. He's ever living to make intercession for us, and he is right in the middle of his church. And I'm not talking about the building, I'm talking about the people, okay? He's left a lot of buildings a long time ago, but he is still in the middle of his people. And listen to what he sees and how he describes him. He is clothed with a long robe and with a golden sash around his chest. And we know that nothing is more costly than gold. And gold comes through a refiner's fire. Boy, Jesus went through the refiner's fire for us. It's a golden sash around his chest. The hairs of his head were white like wool, like snow, which represents wisdom. His eyes are like a flame of fire. And if you think about it, eyes like a flame of a furnace, one translation says, meaning that he can see everything. He sees everything that's going on. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. And my ESV commentary says this. It says, they will crush any opponents. That's what his feet are like. And this is all that John is taking all of this in. And his voice was like the roar of many waters. Whenever I'm sitting in front of the ocean and I'm listening to the roaring of the waves, I often think of this passage, of this roaring voice of the Lord. I just think about that so often when I'm listening to the ocean. I think of this passage. In his right hand, he held 7 stars. Okay? So again, what do we have? We have a number of completion. We have a number of perfection. So these stars represent the angels who look over the seven churches. So basically every church has an angel. And it says that in his right hand he held seven stars, and from his mouth came a sharp two-edged sword. And that two-edged sword, remember in Hebrews 4:12, it says the word of God is like a double-edged sword dividing between flesh and spirit, joint and marrow. And Jesus said, remember in John chapter 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Jesus himself is the Word. But in this moment, in his mouth comes a sharp two-edged sword. Of course it does, because he is the Word and he speaks the Word. And John is seeing all of this. Can you imagine? Of course we can't. And what is his reaction? His reaction is exactly what ours would be. He said, and his face was like the sun shining in full strength. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead. Who wouldn't? Seeing this magnificent display of something so supernatural and so holy, it fostered the response in John that it would foster in any of us, that would be unavoidable. He fell at his feet as though a dead man, and listened to what Jesus does. But he laid his right hand on me, saying, fear not. And then Jesus tells him who he is. I am the first and the last. Remember, we talked about it last week, the Alpha and the Omega. He gets the first word and the last word. And the living one, I died, and behold, I am alive forever, and I have the keys of death and Hades. When Jesus was resurrected, the keys to death were his. The keys to hell are his. And doesn't he deal with John so tenderly? Fear not, John. You know, we as his children have nothing to fear. We have nothing to fear. Even though we would see this great and beautiful display. Write therefore, and here comes the assignment again, write therefore the things that you have seen, and this is what he's seeing, those that are, and those that are to take place after this. Now, what does that mean, to take place after this? It's really clear. It means that the things that he's about to write are things that are going to take place in the future. And the other thing about it is, and we'll talk about this again because it will come after the letters to the churches. But if God says it, you can settle it, that it will be done. So I want you to write down these things that are, and those that are to take place after this, because this is going to happen after this. That means it hasn't happened yet. As for the mystery of the seven stars that you saw in my right hand, and this is where he gives them the explanation that I just gave you, and the seven golden lampstands, the seven stars are the angels of the seven churches, and the seven lampstands are the seven churches. John said, I turned around to see who was talking to me. And what he saw was the first and the last, Jesus. But what he also saw was that Jesus stood amidst his church. Friends, we should take comfort in that thought today, that we as the bride of Christ, that Jesus stands in our very midst. And I don't know about you, but that's good news on a Monday morning.